And he's like, yeah, I'm sure it's not a big deal. And then thousands of dollars later, he's like, you should probably sell these.
Yeah, it was around 18 months before I made a profit after equipment costs.
Yeah, about the same. So yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about like what goes into dice making. We're going to talk about some materials, equipment that we need to use, the actual casting process, and then demolding and then finishing up sets. So, we're going to start with safety tools.
Yeah, so I know resin pouring is really big on TikTok and everything now, and the more popular it gets, the more people start doing it without proper safety equipment. Resin is actually incredibly dangerous to handle. Two-part epoxy resin gives off very dangerous fumes, and it is not safe to pour in places where your pets are, your kids are, in closed spaces without ventilation, or anywhere you plan to eat or drink any food. You should really be doing it in a workshop, a garage, somewhere with good ventilation. Obviously, that's not possible, in every home, depending on constraints. But if you can close doors and put a towel or something under it, and most importantly, wearing a respirator and gloves at all times, because it can, over repeated contact, cause really severe contact dermatitis. So if you see people pouring resin without gloves on, in a couple of years, that it's going to look really bad. It's very bad down the line, and the fumes can. It's about as bad as smoking cigarettes. Smoking fumes without wearing a respirator.
That like once the resin is fully cured, it doesn't no longer produces any of the fumes or gas. Most resins have a curing time around 1 hour to a week. And so during that time, you want to make sure that your resin is also stored safely. Because if you just pour dice and then leave them on your desk, it's going to be what we call degassing for the next week. And so you're still going to be inhaling those fumes. So if you decide you want to make dice, you want to make sure that your dice is stored away somewhere that you're not sitting next to them.
Once it's fully cured, it's just plastic. It's perfectly safe. It's safe to wear as jewelry. It's safe to wear and handle. Totally fine. I wouldn't recommend eating it, which I guess people chew on dice. I would not recommend doing that. But totally safe to handle. I get asked a lot of questions about jewelry. There are a lot of cutting boards and things made out of resin, and that's totally safe once it finishes the full cure time.
If you're doing cutting boards, you want to make sure that we are using
FDA approved resin. The resin I use is aluminite, and it has an FDA rating. There is a safety sheet, and it will say that your resin is FDA rated for food contact surfaces.
Yes, and I use what's called KS resin. It's the resin that I personally use, and it's what I've always used, and I have never had any trouble with it. You use aluminite, but there's other kinds.
There's tons of brands.
Tons of brands.
And none of them are safe to use without a respirator or gloves.
Even if it says odorless or
just because you can't smell the fumes doesn't mean they're not there.
Yeah, so you always want to make sure respirator, gloves. I have like a work apron that I wear because if resin gets on your clothes, it's there. It will not come out.
Glasses are very important. I don't wear safety glasses because I wear regular glasses, but if you don't wear glasses, if it splashes in your eye, that is very bad.
Yeah.
Honestly, a big part of us doing this panel is because we get so many questions about how to make dice, and people just think you can just start doing it without any safety equipment, and it's so dangerous.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that everyone understands if you decide to take this route to be incredibly safe. Let's start with some of the materials that we need. So we have our resin, but first we have to have a master set of dice that we will cast in silicone to make our molds.
Masters are 3D printed on a 3D printer in resin, not filament. Those are sanded and polished to a level that is going to be higher than any other dice that you finish, and that is what you cast to make your molds.
Yes.
You are going to make all your molds from those and put them in a very nice case and never touch and never get fingerprints on them,
right?
Because they are a pain in the butt to make.
So what I do, I know we have different molding techniques, but I use cookie cutter or cake sheet, and I have a piece of tape that I place down on here, and then I put my dice in here, pour my silicone, put this into a pressure pot for 4 hours. That's all my silicone takes. I just use silicone brands.
Bedino.
But before that we use Dragon 20.
Silicone is a lot safer than resin.
Yeah, for sure. So I put in the pressure pot around
if you don't pressurize your molds and then you try to cast pressurized dice, your molds will do some really interesting things, like cave in or cave out. I've seen some weird stuff happen.
Yes, it'll definitely work. It's not fun. Silicone's really expensive now, so. And then what I do is once my mold is completely done, I peel that tape off, and I use a mold release. I personally use Vaseline, but you can buy mold release. What do you use?
I used to use mold release spray, but that leaves the top of your dice looking matte, which leaves you with a little more sand to do.
What do you do now?
I moved back to Vaseline.
Yeah. So I use Vaseline. I get a Q-tip, and or actually, I get a little paintbrush. I dip it in the Vaseline, and I gently paint all around the edges of the dice, so that whenever I take that lid off, it will release, and it will keep that cap. It's called cap mold.
Yeah, this style of mold she's talking about is called cap mold. Silicone wants to stick to itself, so if you don't put a barrier between the bottom and the top, it will just completely fuse, and then you'll have to cut your masters out, which is bad. And sometimes they will just get completely ruined in there, and you have to make them again.
Something else we do is we put keys on our mold. So I use probably the same thing you do. They're like little rhinestones. Yeah, and we put them on the tape, and it's for no other purpose but for whenever we put the lid on.
So it always fits on the same way.
We know which way to put it on.
Around.
Because I've done that. I put the lid on completely the wrong way, and then my dice I have a D6 and a D4.
Sometimes you'll have like a one face that is just sideways on the top.
I've done it. I've done it more than once.
Which they're fun, but they're not.
So we can cut little keys on the side too, and then you can also like line up your mold that way. I don't know if this is right.
It's basically supposed to be lined up like a manhole cover where there's only one correct way it can fit.
Exactly. So that's the first step to code smoothing, is to make your mold.
Which usually takes about 2 days.
It takes me to polish your master, which you do one time really, really good. That takes about 2 hours.
And a good set of masters should last you about a year.
Yeah. And then every now and then I'll go back through and I'll repolish them just to give them back that shine, because the silicone will start to take it away.
And a purchase set of masters from a master maker is usually between $200 to $400.
Depends. I know. Yeah, I'd say about 200.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, you can maybe find them for 80, like already pre-made with someone else's font.
If you want a custom logo or a custom font, it's going to
It'd be
be
about 250 to 350 for a full set. But those masters will last you for a long time. After we have our mold made, you're ready to make dice. How much silicone or resin do you use for your dice?
I have an 8-piece set, which takes about 40 milliliters.
Yeah, mine too. So I use about 40 milliliters of resin. You can pour clear, just have clear dice. Other things that we can use, I have some things here. You have pigment paste. This is just resin and pigment paste. They have all colors. If it gets on your hands, because I had a leak through the lid, it will stick to your hands for a while. You can put things like pinata, mix alcohol inks. You can color your dice. That's how we get different colors. You can. This will be translucent. So if you want opaque, you can use
Mica powder, like the same stuff that's in soaps.
Yeah, I have mica powder. It's like the same stuff that's in soaps. That will make it opaque. And then I also have some like other resin pigments that are in a drop bottle. And then of course we can add glitter, all the glitter. My garage is just glitter. My husband gets off work, he comes in the house, and has glitter on.
I do a lot of casting that is just clear resin because I use a lot of floral stuff, which does well in resin, but if there's any water content, it will not cure. It's does not like water.
Something else that we do is my friend here has a 3D printer that I use in this league. We print stuff, we paint them, and then we put them in resin. These are made from resin, it does not rip away off your dice. So you can print whatever you want, put them in your dice, it'll never go balance off.
Yeah, that's a question. I make these dioramas, anyone who wants to come out and see them, this is a vlog one. And I get asked a lot if you can use them. The whole scene is done in resin and then painted and cast again in resin. So they're roll fun. Well, this one has a giant air bubble in it, which is why I brought it, but yeah, the finished ones will roll fine.
Something else you can do is you can cast a blank And then you can put stuff on here. So I put like 3D printed deer with little bits of moss and make it look really. That goes into your mold before your resin into that, and that's how you get inclusions. There's other blanks, which is another set of masters you have to college, but not.
You actually don't really have to polish them.
Well, you have to at least clean them up. I'll say that. And then you can cast their blanks. Oh, here, you want to.
What a blank is it has the shape of the die, but no numbers, and it's slightly smaller.
It's a little smaller. I put nail art on mine. All kinds of designs for really, really low price. And then I cast this into my number molds and have these really cool inclusions that don't rub off. Pressure pot. So
people will say you can make dice without a pressure pot, and it is technically true, but you're not going to get consistently clear dice without bubbles without a pressure pot. It's just how resin works. When you stir it, it creates bubbles, and it creates heat. When it cures, it's endothermic. It's creating its own heat as it mixes, and it's just going to bubble while it cures. It's just not possible by the nature of the material to make clear, bubbleless dice without a pressure pot. People can make pretty good dice without a pressure pot. You can't make perfect dice without a pressure pot.
And what a pressure pot does is it does not remove the bubbles. It pressurizes those bubbles to a microscopic level so that you cannot see them in the naked eye.
Because there's a lid on it. There's nowhere for the bubbles to escape. All it is you're stirring it, you're letting as many of the bubbles off as you can, and then it's just shrinking them down.
Yeah. So they're still there, you just can't see them, and that's how all dice are. I mean, so when everyone says like, oh, our dice balance, you're never going to get a perfectly balanced die unless you're going to a casino. And even then, they only use them for a short amount of time, and then they swap them out. So
what people usually mean is, are they moving? And unless you're putting something very heavy in it, the answer is going to be no.
Right.
And also, unless you're using spin downs, which you shouldn't be using in a tabletop game,
Right.
The numbers are laid out in a way where they're going to roll randomly. The 1 is next to the 19, the 2 is next to the 20. The numbers are specifically laid out on all the dice in a way that is meant to make the rolls random. And even if there's a little bit of a differentiation.
And the dice are still fair. They're still fair on the table. Like, I have a background in statistics. I've rolled dice 200 times just to see what my little bell curve looks like. And it's perfect every time.
My partner's an astrophysicist and has weighed some of my inclusions to see if like the flowers are giving a margin of error and the weight that's in them. Yeah. It's a lot of math I don't understand at that point, but apparently the answer is no. It's fine.
It's fine. Some other things we use, I put to the side, you can use gold leaf on your dice on the inside or the outside. And then something that we can use as well as pipettes. So let's say I have a pure white, I can pipette that in and I can pour clear into my mold, stick this with white in there, and I've suddenly made clouds.
Something I'm going to bring up because it gets asked a lot by people new into dice. A pressure pot is not the same as a cooking pressure pot.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I just have to clarify that because I've had people ask me if you can make dice in an instant pot. No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. What we mean by pressure pot is the kind that you would use it with like an air gun or to like pressurize a paint bucket. So that's what it's for. They make one specifically for resin casting. Not the ones you use for cooking.
Yeah, you can, California Air is the one who makes really good pressure resin specific ones. And then we need an air compressor. I just have a 5-gallon air compressor that I turn on and put that in, and it fills up to 45, and then I turn it off.
The way food pressure pots work is they're creating pressure from steam, and that's introducing like moisture into the resin, which is
you never ever
don't want to introduce water.
No water with your resin will
and also
dry.
Also you don't want to have around anything you're going to use food with.
Yeah. So my dice, I use chaos resin. It takes 12 hours for it to have what we call a soft cure, which means or just a partial cure, which means they're ready to be demolded, and then I can put those away. I have like little little shelf, like pull out the center of my garage, and then they'll cure for the rest of the week in there. How long is yours?
With heat, I have a little ring heater around my pressure pot. It's also about 12 hours. Without heat, it's about 20.
Okay. So you just have to look at your resin sheets. Some resins have like quick.
Yeah, there is a quick coat frame that I use for my blanks, which is 4 hours, but the hot life, which means how long you can work with it before it completely solidifies, is 10 minutes, which is, it might sound like a lot of time, it is not.
No. So yeah, I don't like to mess with the quick stuff because I take mine usually is good for about an hour, and at about 45 minutes, I'm like, okay, let's go. So, but I also have like 4 molds at the same time minimum. So I'm doing a lot of things at once. And then once your dice are completely cured, so they have sat out for their week or 72 hours, then you can start the sanding and polishing. There's a couple ways you can go about this. I'm going to talk about the long way first, and then Kira's going to talk about the short way.
So there is a pretty big dice making community, and for a long time, this was the way to do it. This was the only way people did it, using these papers, Zona papers, or these are people use these on cars. People use these on polished cars.
So the first thing you want to do is you're going to have a little bit of excess from the edge. And I start with 1,000 grit, like that I just get at like Lowe's or Home Depot, and I dip my dice into water, and then I just start to polish, sand it. It takes about 6 wipes, and then I go to 1,000 grit, or to 2,000 grit, and that takes about 6 wipes, and then you can get a pottery wheel. They make mini pottery wheels, they're about this big. You can glue a mirror to it, so it's a solid, flat surface. And then I cut these out to the shape of my pottery wheel. There are 6 papers. You start with green. Then you have gray, blue, pink.
I'm colorblind, I have the right numbers on them.
White, and blue. And so what you're going to do then is you're going to turn your pottery wheel on and let it start. Make sure these can be soaked, like soak it in water.
You should always wet sand when you're working with resin because the dust that it gives off is not good to breathe. So if you're not wet sanding, you need to keep wearing moisturizer.
And then on your pottery wheel, you're just going to do like 5 to 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds on all of these, except for these, you want to do about 20 seconds on the last 2. And these are what really give it a good shine. And it takes a really long time. So we have a shorter way to do this.
So I actually didn't use pottery wheel when I was using Zona papers. I had a big glass cutting board, not the textured glass, but the flat glass side, and I just taped every single paper in line. I just went up and down each one and just moved along the cutting board because I found that faster than swapping out each sheet on the pottery wheel.
See, I just do like all green, like 10 sets, and then I'll swap it over. But how long did you sand on?
You know what? I don't remember. It was maybe like 10 lines down each.
Okay. Yeah, you can just take a lot.
We both moved on to Zona papers. So after the Zona papers, I started doing just up to 2,000 grit sandpaper and then car headlight paste on a cotton cuff with a Dremel tool. And that worked pretty well, but started to be really hard on my hands. And then we found what is currently the fastest method, and I am converting a lot of other dice makers to it, which is a vibratory tumbler, like the ones people use to polish ammo, which you sand up to 2,000 grit, and then use car polishing paste with ceramic beads in a vibratory tumbler for about 12 minutes.
So I can get it down to 2,000, put it in my tumbler, and I don't have to worry about it. I come back 8 hours later, 12 hours later, and they are beautiful and shiny.
And you can put about 10 sets at a time in there.
Yeah, I think maybe 15 sets.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
I push it a little bit sometimes.
I might have put 20 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah, we're not going to see like dice on the edge. I'm like, oh, man, I just put them back in there and run. But I can do it overnight when I'm sleeping. And the only thing I will say about a tumbler is it is a very, very loud. So if you live in an apartment, you're probably going to need a pottery wheel and doing it this way. It is.
And it's another one of those equipment investment things.
Yeah, they're about like $60 on Amazon, and then the cakes is about 25, and then the ceramic beads I think they're about the same.
Yeah.
About 20 or 30.
It's one of those things that like the equipment you're gonna need is gonna add up because it's costing money and it's taking up space.
Yeah, how much was your pressure pot?
My pressure pot was $350.
Yeah, 350 was my pressure pot. The masters were about 300. Air compressor was like 150, 200. So it starts to add up really quick. And then once you have a clean finish, you're gonna pull all of those out of your tumbler or whatever. If we do tumbler, we give them a nice warm bath, not too hot. A little bit of soap to get all of that excess polish off. You give them a little scrub with a brush. I use toothbrush, a soft bristle.
I use the hose.
It works most of the time, but some of my numbers are really tiny parts.
Yeah, I use a bowl,
I have
so I just use
yeah.
those.
So depends on your font, you can maybe get away with a sprayer. I came up with bigger, like my D6s and D8s and D10s are fine, but anything below that, they have to be brushed. And then you can ink them. I use miniature paint, is what I ink my dice with. It's the right consistency to go into those numbers, and it kind of flows once it's in there. You can use.
I just use regular acrylic paint. She thinks I'm crazy. It was fine for me.
Yeah, you can do aquabarrel. Do you order yours down?
No, I just use regular full color paint.
Because you're crazy. Water general.
It's cheap and it works. They have a really nice metallic line, and it's a lot cheaper than miniature paint.
Yeah, so we just we are different people on this one. I'm definitely Team Army Painter. I think they some perfect. You put literally one drop of water and you're good. That's all you need. It's so nice. I tried first and it's nuts. Once you with the way we ink, we get a little bit of a bigger brush. You don't need to get a little tiny brush and hold these guys.
Yeah, you don't have to stay on the lines. What you do is you take a big brush that you don't care about and you smash the paint into the whole side of the die. You put a paper towel on your table and you just wipe it across.
That's it.
Super easy.
So we have some friends that come over and I'm like, just smear it in, everybody. So you just
we don't run paid D&D games. Our players come over and they ink dice for us.
Matt, I think you're due.
Yeah, you're the only one who hasn't come to ink dice. Actually, he did just go do run for us.
So yeah, sometimes, especially with metallic paints, you'll see that there's a little bit left over even after you wipe it off. You can use 70% alcohol. Do not use anything above 70 or your dice will get tacky. But I use a little Q-tip and dip it in the alcohol. I kind of like rub it on, make sure it's not dripping, and then that's it.
So I do something a little different, which is I wait till they're completely dry. I put 70% alcohol onto a glasses, like microfiber cloth.
Yeah, you can do that.
Wait till they're totally dry, and then just rub them in microfiber and drop them inside.
Yeah. So either of those work. It's something that I've used 99% before, and
high percentage alcohol and acetane will completely melt.
No acetane either yet.
Which is good if you need to clean it off or something, which has come up.
Yeah.
Off of my glasses.
My table. Some common issues that we have is sometimes it just wants to. So whenever we pour our resin into these molds, I leave my molds out for 5 minutes. I have like a long camping lighter, and I just let the fire go over it, and it pops in surface bubbles. If I don't do that, sometimes those bubbles won't completely decompress because there's too many, and so I'll have bubbles in my dice.
So I brought these. We thought we were going to be in a much smaller room, so we'd be able to show y'all stuff, but so I have a lot of big inclusions like flowers, which tend to have hollows in them where things like bubbles can get stuck. So if I'm not letting them sit long enough or agitating them enough in the resin, there can be a big air bubble that gets stuck, which means when they cure and I pull the lid off, I'm going to see this really big bubble right on top, which is that's going to be the most common problem with most people. Is going to be bubbles on the top. Uncured resin is going to be the next biggest problem, which I found that the easiest way to avoid that is to you pour your 2 parts into 1 cup and mix it, transfer that mixed resin to a third clean cup, and then mix it later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Sometimes you'll have resin, like it doesn't cure all the way, so it means your dice are squishy. Once they cure, they'll never fully get hard, and that means that they're not safe. So if you ever have dice like that, you want to just chuck them out.
Yeah, there's no, like, if they don't completely cure in the time, they're not going to cure. People will say you can apply heat, and if they are not cured in the amount of time that your resin says it should be cured, you have to throw them out there toxic.
But yeah, so whenever you have your cup of resin before your part A or part B, I have like those big fat popsicle sticks that I use, and I go around the edges, go around the edges, and go around and scrape the bottom, fully integrated.
And when you're mixing it, we sort of buy the regular resin that I use, you can see streaks in it as it's mixing. So you stir until you don't see streaks anymore, and then transfer to a clean cup and do it again.
Yep, that's right.
Because there will always be a little bit stuck to the sides and the bottom that you can't see. And when you start pouring in your molds and you start scraping the sides to get everything in, that's the uncured part that's going to be on the top and the bottom of your dice.
Something I didn't mention is whenever if you're using these type of molds, whenever you pour your resin in here, you want to kind of have a dome so that it's not flat. If it's flat and then you put this lid on top, it's going to concave because that.
Yeah, you want to overfill and then just squish the lid down. Another name for this kind of mold is a squish mold because you want to just squish the lid all the way.
Something that you have a weighted, you put weight on top.
Yeah, I use the same mold house that I use when I have extra silicone left over for making my molds. I mix it up with some loose BBs, like just straight up BB pellets, and then I have this little disc of silicone and BBs that I can put on top of that that'll keep the lid in place.
Sometimes what'll happen is you won't notice it, but it'll be lifted just like that much, and that's all it takes in order for your dice not to fully.
Also, the simplest way is just to flip it upside down.
You can do that too. The other mistakes you can see here.
Uncured resin and bubbles is the biggest one.
Yeah. All right, is there any questions for next time? Yeah.
So did you quit buying other ones?
No. No. We have 3 dice makers in our D&D group, and we started trading at least, which has helped. But I have still bought. There's a really nice ceramic dice maker I like. I think they're called Fighting Chance Studio, and I don't make ceramic, so I buy a lot of ceramic dice from them now.
Something that's fun though, because we are in like dice maker discords, we'll do a lot of dice swaps with each other.
Yeah,
so we're not having to spend money anymore except for our cost to make dice. So I do a lot of like trades and stuff. But dice is constantly still it's still a problem.
Yeah, it's just slightly alleviated.
Yeah. Any other questions you guys have?
Yeah. Okay, so what is the max colors that you're able to put into the resin as you pour?
Max color?
Yes.
You mean like the number or the?
The max number that you can go, that you pour into like.
Oh, I've got a full rainbow.
Yeah, I've done rainbow.
Yes.
So I've done rainbow and I've done rainbow and then I've taken that pipe back and put a cloud in the middle. So it really is, and I use like little medicine cups. I pour resin into that. I put my ink into that. And I stir that up, and then I'll do it again and again and again, and then you just pour those little cups. Yeah.
I've done a bunch of different pride flag sets, which I usually start doing in June. And some of the different pride flags have tons of colors.
Yeah. Something else I didn't mention is if you do inclusions like moss or even other resin.
All these flowers.
Yeah, something you can do. You can use like tweezers and dunk that in resin first
In your
pot
pot,
in
and
your
then-
mold.
yeah.
Or you can pour your resin in and then I call it burping. I go like that. That's all those bubbles, and then all that resin will go to the bottom. And then I can pour more, and then do it again, and pour more until it's completely full.
My main, so since we're friends, we make dice together, we've kind of moved our styles in 2 different directions, so we're not really competing. So my niche is now a lot of organic stuff like flowers and moss and cottage cord and stuff, basically.
I do a lot of the clouds, and I do a lot of like what's called dirty pours, which is where you
A lot more of the bright colors.
I do a lot more bright colored stuff, and like a dirty pour is a different technique. So I have a cup. Let's say I make my cup white. I put in white, like opaque, and I stir it up. Then I would take alcohol ink and I would put 1 drop of purple 1 drop of gold, 1 drop of black. And I let all of that kind of settle on the top, and then I pour that, and what happens is it creates a marbling effect. Give yourself my booth, I have something I can show you. And it marbles, and then once that ink is almost gone, I'll stop, and I'll do it again, and then I'll start again, and that's what's called a dirty pour. Cloud dirty pour, inclusions.
Yeah.
We've both recently started making geodice, which is very time consuming.
So she showed blanks earlier, the dice, the shells that don't have the numbers. So how you make a geode is you take a general tool and you carve chunks out of the blanks, and then you put in foil, glitter, crystals. I've done a couple with moss and things. I recently did a set with some broken uranium glass, and it takes a long time because you're sitting there with tweezers gluing pieces of glass or crystal or whatever into the geodes, and then you pass them. They're very cool, but they take a very long time to make.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, I love them. Yeah, so, it's worth it. And then there's other styles, there's like a Petri style that neither one of us.
Erica does them.
Erica,
Which is the other dice maker in our D&D.
timeless dice, she does Petri.
There's a lot of dice makers in Huntsville.
We have, up to date, I think we have 7.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of us. We have lunch like every other month. Any other questions you guys have for us? Let's see you in the front first. Yeah, you can go.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Regarding what you're saying within the college, I've heard advice given that in order to maintain a college separation from the resident core, it would be better to wait until the resident reached a higher temperature and actually remove the signal. Is that something that is applied?
For dirty pours, I think that's true, right? You wait till it's a little thicker. Really?
But again, it also might depend on what kind of resin you use, like what brand. My KS resin is already a little thick. It's not super watery when I start off with it.
The resin I use is very, very thin. So the few times I've done dirty pours, I have waited until it's almost at the end of its pot life, which it's thicker and harder to pour. Yeah, I have.
But I don't know. But the only time I ever have trouble with like colors coming together is if I do like, I don't know, a red and a blue. I will sometimes get purple, but none of it doesn't happen very often.
It might be the resin you're using being thicker, because my resin is almost the consistency of water.
Yeah. So check out KS resin. It's a good resin. You have questions?
So if you're talking about just the resin and the silicone, not very much, but the actual like pressure pot, safety equipment, you're going to be spending probably $100 off of that. A pressure pot's going to be $300 to $400, and those are the only things you absolutely need.
And then like my resin, I buy 2 gallons at a time, so it's a gallon A and a gallon B. And it's about $100.
You can get smaller. You said we do this for a living,
Yeah,
so we're
we're
getting
getting much smaller. I'm just giving you an idea of what price is.
But the absolutely non-optional stuff that's up front is going to be safety equipment, and a good respirator is going to be $50 to $60. Gloves, apron, safety glasses.
And then, I mean, this is why my handmade dice cost like $80, just because so much money goes into making these. And I would say like probably every other month I buy gloves. Every other month I have to buy like little cups. I have to rebuy cups and sticks and stuff like that. All of that's kind of like a lower cost overall. But whenever you're doing like 3D printing and stuff,
Yeah,
you know,
which is again optional stuff that like she doesn't have a 3D printer, but I 3D print.
I do at Tyler's house. I do buy her residence.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, I need.
But the absolute musts are safety equipment, which is probably $100 up front, your resin, and you can buy molds pre-made. There's a lot of really good mold makers that I could recommend if anyone's interested. And molds are what, 30 to 50 probably per set.
I think so. I haven't bought any.
Nano lab makers who got before I got my master's.
Here we go.
I would recommend that. And then pressure pot is what I would recommend if you want to get into dice making a little more seriously, but I would wait on that until you know you can use it.
Any other questions?
Actually, we were talking about 3D printing. It's getting into 3D printing, you've got biological anyway, so
Yeah.
it's just the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got 3 myself.
It's definitely something that can help. I do a lot of miniatures too. I do a lot of mini painting. Like I play in like 3 or 4 D&D games, and I run one, and we're opening a storefront soon. So it's a big investment, but it's definitely paid for itself already.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Any suggestions for explaining to my wife that there's nothing wrong with it?
I have some stickers that say that at my
Yeah.
booth.
Just listen, just tell her that you're a goblin and it's just part of your DNA, you cannot help it.
Look, it's okay to have dice sets for every different character. It's bad luck to use the wrong dice for the wrong character. They're going to roll bad.
And sometimes they have like different outfits or different weapons, and you need to feed your dice for that. I mean, it's just the way it is. Right. Anything else, guys? Yeah.
On the resin paper, do you all do your own or do you hire somebody to do?
I do my own resin printing. I have one at home I got late last year, and I do my own resin printing.
And how expensive are they?
I got a pretty new one, and it was $350, which was not bad. They have cheaper older models that are around the $200 range. I have an Elegoo Mars 3 Pro, and I know they sell the 2. Yeah, I know they sell the 2 for around $200. I really like it. I haven't had any issues with it. The build plate's not huge. It's about that big. I don't have anything really to compare it to. It's about that big, which is fine for miniatures and the dice stuff that we're doing.
Saturday has
It's a lot bigger.
a lot bigger than size.
Yeah,
What's your building experience?
I don't know the actual dimension.
It's huge.
It's the size.
It's massive, but for $200 more, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
The only thing that I disappointed in when I looked at the days, we got rid of the actual on the back. So now I have to other than that.
Yeah.
Any other questions, you guys?
If you buy a lot of minis and stuff, I highly recommend it because I've saved a lot of money on miniatures with my own printer.
Yeah, so what are some of the best ways you found to sell your dice, or they're mostly like online stuff, or is it better to just
I think I do more of online sales, so you have to advertise yourself. The internet is so saturated, and there are a lot of companies just stealing photos and putting fake ads up. I've had a bunch of my own photos stolen, and I know a bunch of other dice makers have. And just putting stuff on Etsy, it's so saturated. You absolutely have to advertise yourself. I'm not super active on social media myself, but I've had to get really active on Instagram and TikTok and stuff for my business. Every event I'm at, I post reels. I've had to look up what are the tags you have to post to get in the algorithm, and it's really going to have to be a lot of self promotion if you want to get the traffic to your shop. Is the main thing. You can't just put the shop up and wait for stuff to come in. You really have to push advertising yourself. And I don't pay for advertising. It's really just making posts and making sure you're tagging them properly.
And then I do a lot of stuff here locally, like I do Below Mill Market. We have gone to like shenanigans and stuff, or Stand Up Live, C&D, comedy show. You guys don't know about that, it's amazing, every other month. And then like conventions, we have like, I have more than you, I think I have like 12 conventions from February to the end of July. And that's not even my fault.
We have over a month of convention days total this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, I like doing that though. I love going to conventions and like selling my dice in person. I think, I don't know, it's an extra like personal touch. She did say we are opening up a storefront. We have been approved and juried into Low Mill. So we're just waiting for a space to open at Low Mill. We're not going to go under our business names. We're making an LLC company
Because we have 2 different businesses.
because we have different businesses. But we're going to offer, we'll have dice and stuff, and we're also going to offer like cool one-shots where we give you guys dice and painted minis, and we have digital maps and just like a
Yeah,
whole.
like you come in, you make your characters, you tell us what they look like. I print a mini for you. You can either paint it yourself or I can paint it for you, and then we pour the dice specifically for your character, design how you want them, and then you play the game. We run the game for you.
We're just waiting for a studio to open up.
So
So
I think we have like almost 40 years of DMU experience between the two
Yeah,
of
we
us,
have
so.
a lot of people in
6 systems, roughly?
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. That's so cool.
If there's anyone who are local, if you're local and you're looking at markets to check out, Lowell does a market, I think every Saturday,
from May to
May to October, and it's only $10 for a booth, so I highly recommend it. I just moved here last July, and that was the first local thing I did, and it's really easy, it's low pressure, and it's cheap to go to, so it's a really good first market to try.
Yeah, $10. The only thing is if you have sell your diets outside, you want to make sure that you are shaded because that sun will make your resin super hot and then they get super tacky and they can start to get ruined. So we have like a tent and then we have like a wall that we can move our table with the sun.
We have had to rotate throughout the day.
So we just try to keep it in the shade and I don't recommend going in the middle of July. No, it's just too hot.
But it's May through October, and it's every weekend, there's tons of opportunities. So if you're interested and you want to just get your foot in the water, I really recommend it.
So we want to thank you guys. Oh, you have a question?
I was going to say, pop nice, you said you're going to be doing like the CMD, the evening weekends.
Yeah, so the plan is to run not full campaigns, I think, to start, but just one shots or 1 to 3 session games with like bespoke characters. She also designs character sheets, so there'll be different price points to come in if you don't want custom dice, custom minis, but we'll be doing paid games.
And we'll have time slots open so that we can work around other people's schedule. So if you wanted to take like a Friday at 6 o'clock, you can make that work. So and we can even do it on days that when it's not open, we can bring people in. So it'll be open to other people's schedules really.
I have experience with World of Darkness, Kids on Brooms, Good Society, Kids on Bikes, yeah, same system basically.
DD5E.
Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I think that's about my knowledge. A little bit
Yeah, add the stream. There you go.
All right.
Go back and then you hit stream there.
Right.
So hit there in the corner.
Here in the corner?
Go back to the main screen. Hit the
Oh.
duck.
Oh, okay.
Yes, leave the stream.
Right.